Hi, I'm Susan Carricker, and I work at Gautier High School on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And this year, for the first time, I used portfolios in place of some of my traditional assessments, and I want to share with you today some of the things I learned as I tried this new way to assess, and hopefully you will find some things in here that you can apply in your own classes. So why portfolios? For one thing, portfolios can be an authentic form of assessment. We can really see more deeply into what students are understanding. Portfolios can be engaging. Students have fun when they get to use art and creativity and use their own voice to explain what they're learning and to engage with the work. It can be a pretty fun time, more so than the traditional pencil paper or even online test. It is illuminating. Students don't necessarily tell you everything they know when they take a multiple choice test. You think you know what they know, but you find out through these portfolios that there's way more information that really needs to be gathered about what they understand. So it does open your eyes a lot. And then finally, probably the biggest reason for portfolios is it gives students a voice and it gives them some choice in how they can demonstrate understanding. Sometimes a multiple choice test or even an open-ended test does not really fully give kids the liberty to tell you what they know. So it's good to give them that chance to show you through a portfolio. There are many ways that we could choose to put together a portfolio, but for my purposes this year, I started small and we started with just Google Slides. The primary reason that was my first choice in putting together portfolios is the kids already were familiar with Google Slides. They'd used it in many of their classes, so there was not a big learning curve in putting those together. And they are really an effective way to kind of organize their work. The first Google Slides portfolio I wanted to share with you is from an Algebra 1 student. They created this slideshow with the animations. They had some text in here describing what they were doing, and they also put in reflections. I found out kind of early on that the reflections are pretty challenging for kids because they've never done these types of things before, but I did ask students to tell me, when did you make mistakes and how did you learn and how did you grow? So you'll notice as you go through the presentation that this student is giving some of their ideas about, things that they learned as they were doing these artifacts in their presentation. This is just a simple Google slide, so putting in pictures and text and color and graphics is pretty easy for most kids. So they did a good job with it, and most of the kids had no trouble putting it together. The reflections was a challenge for most students, but the actual using of slides was not challenging. The other platform that we used this year besides slides was Google Sites. Google Sites has a lot of similarities to Google Slides in that you can embed text and audio and graphics and video, but it's definitely more challenging as far as the functionality. The kids struggled with it a little bit more. The purpose behind choosing Sites, and I did this for the second term. The first term I did slides because it was a little easier, and then Sites was a little more challenging. We did the second term of the semester. The reason I chose Sites is because kids are probably going to need to build a website at some point in the future in another class or in their career. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for them to kind of get used to the software and try it out and see what they think. There are other softwares out there, but of course this is free, and it integrates well with the Google Classroom and the other Google products that the kids are using on their Chromebooks on a regular basis. Here's an example of a Term 2 portfolio that a student made in Google Sites. They chose to put in their weeks as a page, and then each page they would add text and graphics and just different things. So here's just a few of the artifacts that this student included. The nice thing about sites is they get to include all these neat little graphics and things that they care about, so they can color it up and they can make it look however they want, and that's always sweet. So they can also embed slide presentations themselves. So you can see here they've embedded this slideshow. It even has the controls at the bottom so that they can, if you look down here, it has controls so that you can go through their slide presentation. So Sites is a real nice tool. It does integrate well with the Google products, so the kids can use things that they've done in Google Classroom and insert those. There is a little bit of a trick with the permissions sometimes, so they'll learn as you do it. So you do need to give them plenty of time to troubleshoot and play with it, and maybe even submit early so that you can tell them if they've got some errors or problems that are going to need correcting with permissions. Now, when it's time to start building the portfolio, students will need to use different tools to develop things that would be appropriate for a portfolio. And that's not really a worksheet, but something else that will allow them some time to be creative and use text and graphics and different things. And one of the tools that was actually probably the most used tool was Jamboard. So students could go to Jamboard and insert text and pictures and graphics and just use it as a big whiteboard to display what they're doing. And then they could use Jamboards in other applications as well. If they're making videos, they could use a Jamboard and then talk about it in a video. So Jamboard proved to be one of, I would say, the most useful tools for creating artifacts for portfolios. Here's an example of a slide in Jamboard that was created by a student. They created the graphic using the Desmos graphing calculator and exported the image, and they created these equations using a tool called Graspable Math, and they used the tools in Jamboard to create the text and the grid background. So, and they used some drawing tools to draw also on the slide. So they really have lots of opportunities for creativity, and Jamboard this year has really kind of exploded with its with the tools that it offers. So they can now upload an image for the background. That wasn't something they could do initially before COVID, but now they can. They can also use there's a lot more tools available. So the tool in the toolbar, if you'll take a look at the new toolbar, it's pretty awesome. They've expanded the number of slides that you can put, or they're actually called frames, in a Jamboard now to 30. It was limited to 10 at one time. And they also have version history so that you can tell when something's been changed in a Jamboard. So things have changed for the better with Jamboard, and it is a great tool for creating artifacts for portfolios. For the first time this year, my students recorded Flipgrid videos, and these proved to be a great artifact for their portfolios. A lot of students chose to use these, and quite a few of these I loved so much that I asked them permission to put in my YouTube channel to share with other people, because it was so powerful. So I want to share with you just one. It's not that it's that extraordinary, but it just shows you how much information you can get out of one of these videos to really fully understand what kids are doing, what they know. It's great. We've really enjoyed using Flipgrid.
So I will be reflecting my block pattern and explicit equation creative project. So when I first did this, like before the arithmetic equation, like I would always struggle like remembering where the numbers go, but now I know. So the first number after the A and N is the first number of your block pattern. So my block pattern, my first number is 1. So that number is going to be in the front of the equation. And I remember this because they're first and first. My common difference is 2, because each number is 2 is being added to each number to give the next. So I remember this because common number that's being used, which was 2. So I don't really struggle with that one anymore. In the N is whatever term you're trying to find. So if I'm trying to find the 5th term, I'll use the 5. I'll put the 5 there because that's the term that I'm trying to find. I also noticed that my domain will always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my range will be my sequence pretty much. So 1, 3, and so on and so on. Because that's the range, like it's going up 2 each time because my common difference is 2 because 2 has been added. Also, I could tell my common difference was 2 because I would have to see what plus what would give me 3. What plus 1 would give me 3, so I would do 3 minus 1 was 2. And then what plus 3 would give me 5, so I do 5 minus 3 equals 2. And I did that for 5 times, and that's how I found my difference of 2.
The next tool that we used this year was sidewalk chalk. The kids got outside, drew on the sidewalk, and then I came around and took photographs of their work and put them into Google Classroom so that they could put them into their portfolios. So we had a great time with that. It's not really a tech tool, but it's just something fun to do to get out of the classroom. So some of the artifacts in the portfolios you'll notice came from their sidewalk chalk assignments. Next, we used whiteboards. How do you write in a math class? How do you show your work? I mean, I hear that a lot. The easiest way to do it that I've found, far easier than just about anything else, is just to give the kids a whiteboard and a marker and say, write down your problems, write down your work. And they'll hold those whiteboards up as they work. So as you can see in this Flipgrid video, a student is doing exactly that. They're using a whiteboard to work a problem and show us how it's done. Very simple, very low tech, but very effective.
So the problem I am presenting is number 12, and originally I had put exponential growth, but then once I saw how the first differences are different and the second differences are the same, I knew it was quadratic because in an exponential growth, they have to have a common ratio, but this doesn't have a common ratio. It's the first differences are different and the second differences are the same. And when that happens, it means it is a quadratic function.
Okay, I'm going to be correcting number 4 on the paper. So it says if a total of 147 tickets sold, then how many student tickets were sold? So we take the original equation, which is 8x plus 5y equals 900, but then we have to set the total to 147. So we're going to do x plus y equals 147, like this. And then you're going to graph them in Desmos and find where they intersect, which is the order pair 55, 92. But it's asking for how many student tickets, and that was our y value. So our y equals 92. So that means that 92 students' tickets were sold.
One of the new tools we used this year for the first time was Graspable Math, and I'd never heard of it. I actually found out about it on Twitter from some of the people that I follow, and I am absolutely in love with this software. The activities are great, and that's wonderful, but the best thing about it is that the kids can do the math themselves. All you have to do is go to any browser, type math.new, and it will open up a blank canvas for you to work math problems on. You can insert expressions and equations, you can solve them, you can simplify, you can rewrite them in other forms, and kids it's just amazing to watch their faces as they work through these problems, and then they can use these problems in videos explaining their work, and I had some really good ones this year. So here's one example of a video that a student did using Graspable Math.
So we're going to take the formula, drag, oh, by the way, you got this by clicking on that. And this is a quadratic formula. You multiply everything, square it, subtract, square root, then click on the and that should be your.
One of the tools we used this year to capture video was Screencastify. Screencastify is a Chrome extension that turns their Chromebooks into a video recorder. And so students can capture what's on their screen, and they can talk and narrate over that and explain what they're doing. It's a free software up to 5 minutes, and that's usually the time limit that I give the kids for any presentation of their portfolio. I did have one student that used it first semester, and she wasn't even required to use it, but she decided to. So let me show you what she's done with her portfolio. This is the video that she produced using Screencastify, and as you can see, she's basically created what you would see in a typical slide presentation, but she talked through her slide presentation. I have posted this video as an exemplar on my website and on one of my prior things. If you actually came to Tech Camp last year, you probably saw this video, but I thought it was especially good, so I just wanted to bring it up again. Screencastify is a great tool, and it's an easy way for kids to create videos and save them. One nice thing about these videos is it saves them directly to their Google Drive. They don't have to fumble around looking for the file after they've saved it. It will remain there in their Google Drive even when they close their Chromebooks. They don't lose it. Here to develop artifacts for their portfolios was Screencastify. I have a full-length example of a full-length portfolio in Screencastify on my website, which I've linked out to at the end of this presentation. But students can also just create short videos to insert within one slide of their portfolio or in one page of their site if you're using Google Sites. So this is a very versatile tool. It's actually very easy for kids to use it. It automatically downloads the video into their Google Drive, which I found out, that's kind of a hard thing for a lot of kids to keep up with their videos. Like, what happened to it? Where did it go? It's a little harder and more challenging to get a video off of Flipgrid, download it, and then put it onto your site and have the permissions correct. With the Screencastify, it's a little bit easier. So here's an example of a Screencastify video that a student used recently in their portfolio.
Okay, as you can see, there are two solutions where the lines intersect. And as you can see right here, the first line stops on 1 and the second one stops on 4. So that's why x equals 1 and 4. Yeah.
And then finally, we used posters. So just simple posters that you put up on the wall at school with some graphics and text. We take pictures of those posters, and then kids can put a picture of what they've done inside their portfolio. Not only can I see the work done on the poster, but then the student can talk about the work or reflect on the work. So it's a very rich source of information, and it's a lot of fun. So it's not just sitting down and filling out a worksheet or a pencil paper test, but the kids are having a good time displaying their work and explaining what they're doing. Now, with anything, there's drawbacks and there's challenges, and that is true for portfolios as well. You can't throw this thing together at the last second and expect a good result. So you have to give kids an opportunity to produce the artifacts. And that means taking them outside to do the sidewalk chalk, foregoing some worksheet assignments and having them produce Jamboard slides or having them create Screencastify videos. So these are things that do take time to get the results. You really need to do them in class where you're there to answer questions and to encourage them, because anytime you try something new, we know that it doesn't always go as smoothly as we'd hope. So those opportunities need to happen in class, and so we do have to kind of replace some of our traditional assignments and assessments with these new opportunities, so that the kids can produce something and have sufficient time to do it. We have to give students students autonomy. That means they're going to be making some decisions about what to choose to put in the portfolio, and sometimes they may not choose what you want. So something I noticed is that some of my students picked the simplest, most basic things to put in a portfolio that did not really highlight their understanding, and there were actually very low skill items. That's going to happen. One way you can get around that is to assign a DOK level to the problem that they choose, and then you can assign a grade based on some kind of scale, and that will at least encourage them to pick challenging or more interesting problems. But no matter what, it is important to give kids the freedom to make choices, maybe not even the best choices, because this is, after all, their voice and their choice. They are showing you what they know. So giving them autonomy is part of it. And then how do you grade? Well, the first thing that I thought I would do when I started this is I would make a very detailed rubric, and I'm going to give you this many points for this and this many points for that. And I quickly figured out not only does it take forever to grade and assess using rubrics, but you're limiting what they're doing, and you're also limiting what you're giving them credit for. So I actually did not use rubrics much after the first term. I did a little the first term, and then I kind of got away from those, primarily because I do want the kids to have freedom to tell me what they want to tell me. And I have freedom to ask questions if I don't have enough information about what they're doing, or if I need elaboration. It is important to grade holistically, like look at the student's full body of work. Maybe they didn't give you everything they could in the actual portfolio, but you've seen their work throughout the semester and some of the artifacts that they chose to put in their portfolio. So I do kind of give kids the benefit of the doubt. If I know that they know something and maybe they didn't word it quite right or didn't say it quite right, they are still young students who are learning. So I'm very generous in that respect. I do offer the opportunity for students to do presentations of their final portfolio, and that way they can elaborate on anything that I might have questions on. And something I plan to do next year that I did not do this year, but I am going to include interviews next year. And I'm going to ask kids to basically explain to me, have a list of questions that are specific. And that kind of gets around having to have that rubric that's real limiting. If I see the kid has not really given me enough to give them a fair assessment on certain things, then I can probe deeper and ask more questions to get more information, to give them, a better assessment. Here are a few excerpts from some of the better portfolios. We had a wide variety. Some students didn't do all of their portfolio, but all students did at least some. And so I just wanted you to get a taste of some of the things that were submitted. This portfolio is from a Algebra 1 student who used predominantly Desmos activities and some sidewalk chalk here, and explained with text how they did the problems and then what they learned as they did them. They submitted this as a Google Slides, and this student actually presented their portfolio in class, so we were able to ask questions, and students could ask questions too if they wanted about the portfolio. She did an excellent job, and this was just a little taste of what she did. And this student happens to be a good test taker, but not a great communicator, so she learned quite a bit about how to communicate what she was doing by doing her portfolio. This last example that I want to show you is from one of my students' portfolios, but really I just want to talk about this student because she's sort of the perfect example of the type of student that really benefits from doing portfolios. She really enjoys the creativity and the fun that's, the sidewalk chalk and and the Google Slides and the pictures. She enjoys all that. But this is an EL student who really struggles with the language. And so her first example that she did submit to me, it's not this one. It was early in the year, and she really struggled to communicate. But I worked with her, and she would modify and revise and modify and revise. And so she finally came up with a pretty good, example for her first project that we did, our first creative project. And then as the year went on, she got better and better. Well, not only did she get better and better, but her work on her other assignments was getting better and better. And this student actually ended up having the highest grade in her class, the best score on her final exam, and she made an A for the first time in a math class. And I firmly believe that the portfolio was that one thing that really helped her to turn the corner. So I was just real pleased to see her progress and see how the portfolio, kind of made a difference for her. She was able to be creative and express herself, and it actually gave her an incentive to do better. I mean, she would want to make the corrections and make it do her best work. If you have any questions about portfolios, or you just want to toss around some ideas, the best way to reach me is on Twitter. I'm Gautier Sue. Or you can go to my website, technomath.com, and on the contact page, I have a form. You can fill that out, and I will promise to get back to you. And my email is petrie.carricker@gmail.com, so you can email me at that address with your questions. I hope that something you saw today in this presentation has given you some ideas, some things you might try with your own students. And I am excited to do this again next year. I learned so much, but I still have much to learn, and I know that I'll do a better job myself. My encouragement to you is not to wait till you figure everything out to get started, because inevitably you will not figure everything out, and you will want to tweak it as well. You'll want to change it from year to year. So just jump in there and try one of these creative projects and see what happens. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what the kids are able to do and what they know as they show you their learning through portfolios. Y'all have a great day.